Well, hello, wealthy women. It is Coach Tamara, and I am here today with a very inspirational story and interview with Claire. So she's very spiritually focused, and she has really, found her mission in life by connecting with her inner self. And she's going to let you know a little bit about her work, how sometimes when you go within and spend some time with yourself and spirit, you will get the messages that you need and the path that you're supposed to take, and you can transform your life for the better. And then we're going to get into a round of our fun success questions. So
Yeah.
I am going to turn the camera over now to you, and please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and your business and where people can find you.
Yay. Hey, I'm Claire Huestis, and I don't know about you, but I struggled a lot with thinking and spiraling into depression because of my thinking. And when I would make mistakes in life, which we all do, we say the wrong thing, we do the wrong thing, we take a risk and it blows up in front of us. I would beat myself up often for weeks, days, drive myself right into sometimes 2 weeks in bed with depression because I didn't know how powerful my thoughts were. And I just thought I was a prisoner to my thoughts and not that I can actually change my thoughts by renewing my mind. And so out of that, I have actually successfully, I have down days. I won't lie to you. I have down days. They're days, not 2 weeks in bed going, right? No energy, zapped. And so through this, I've learned to renew my mind, and I equip and transform and inspire women ages 30 to 50 to renew their minds in the abundant and unshakable identity in Christ and courageously step into their God-given destiny and abundant freedom, drawing inspiration from the story of Gideon. He's one of my favorite Bible characters. But, you can find me at cultivating transformation vt.thinkific.com. And I've got different products. I've got a subscription where we can really go after those beliefs. And hopefully I get to share how I feel about my beliefs a little bit later. But like, just going after beliefs and belief training, or you can subscribe to me and we'll go after beliefs. We'll grab onto where you feel God is leading you, get you that confidence, get that transformation. We live in an information era. And the problem is we don't know how to take action because we're so overwhelmed with information that this helps you narrow down on that action step so that you can actually bring transformation into your life.
Of this, and it's so true what you just said about the overwhelm, especially when you're a new business owner. You're trying to pull from everywhere, and everything is so called that important that you are supposed to do everything. And what happens is you get so overwhelmed and you get out of touch with yourself, your spiritual connection. And I absolutely agree with you. Whenever there's been a little overwhelm, and overwhelm can lead to those feelings of, a mild depression or being out of funk, not in your rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever that happens, for me, for you, and for many women here, and many women that might want to consider trying this, it's about getting in touch with your spiritual essence. And sometimes it's about sitting down, quieting your mind, closing your eyes, and connecting with your soulful self and saying, what shall I do next? What is my next path? What is the next action I should take? How can I, fix my mindset to feel more gratitude,
Mm-hmm.
hopeful, and forward thinking? And, it really does. If we keep up with all of the things that we need to do, we lose touch with our sense of self and our sense of spirit. So maybe you can share with us, like, do you have like a specific way that when you're feeling a little overwhelmed with, let's say, putting your business together, and that you're feeling scattered and pulled in so many directions, and it's off,
Right.
how do you recenter yourself? Like, what is the specific tool that you do that you could suggest to other women that often feel that way? Because that's part of becoming a business owner. You do have a lot to take in and organize, and it's hard sometimes.
Well, one of the things that I do, I'm a verbal processor. So if I don't get it out in this way, I frequently will just start spiraling and spiraling. And another thing, it sounds so funny. I make myself laugh, and I laugh for a while, like not a no, I like get some gut belly like because it's funny how it'll start to interrupt. I think laughing is a metacognitive that we can do anywhere and all the time. Probably not, when somebody's like crying on your shoulder, probably not a good time to laugh, but most of the time, and so what? They think you're a little off. Like, why are you just laughing randomly? Because something in my head was funny, right? I mean, you can pass stuff off fairly easily. Thought of something funny, was connected to this,
Well,
But
I love what, yeah, not to interrupt you, but I love what you just said about you need to verbalize it. You kind of just made me recall like some quite often, to be honest with you. you know, and as a business owner, you're often alone by yourself. So you don't necessarily have a colleague or so
yeah,
forth to kind of always bounce ideas off. And sometimes you need to hear it out loud.
right.
It's as if you need to talk to yourself.
Yeah.
And I often, believe it or not, I hope I'm not alone. But I often do this. I'm home. My husband's at work.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think out new ideas or something for my business, and or I feel like I need a timeline, and I can't. How does one thing connect to another? And I will outwardly talk to myself. Okay, so this is what I need to do. If I do this first, da da da. I'm actually having a meeting with myself.
Yep.
And, maybe somebody on the street, if they saw that, they would think I was a little nuts. But to be quite honest with you, it's one of the best ways to organize your
Yeah.
mind. And I also love the idea of what you're saying about laughing. It could be laughing, it could be dancing, it could be exercising, it could be cleaning the house. It's a pattern interrupt, right?
Yeah.
And typically, you're just trying to change your endorphin levels so that you can shake yourself out of whatever staleness was going on in your mind. So I love that. That's really good advice.
And
Yeah.
one of the things I do, it's a roughly based on Tony Robbins. He has something, about standing tall like this, 2 minutes. And I just go, okay, Lord, give me an encounter with you. And sometimes 2 minutes isn't long enough. You're like, oh, I want to stay here for 5 minutes. But it changes your state because it gets you into a different place.
Yeah.
And that's key is when we start to get locked up, everything becomes this, and we can't
Yes.
see anything. We can't even see the forest, let alone
Yeah.
tree in front of us, because we've become so narrow.
Yeah.
We need to just get the ideas out, and yeah, making lists, figuring out all the steps, getting us out of paralysis analysis is
Yes.
hugely important, because we get stuck there. I would wind up in bed for days
Yeah.
again, because it's like,
Let let's talk a little bit more about overwhelm, because this is one of the biggest things that happens to most of us, especially in the very beginning before we learn how to use systems and strategies and automations. We have big dreams for our business. We want to help, we want to serve,
mhm,
and there's so much sometimes that we want to do that it does become this gigantic,
right,
fabulous ball of great ideas, but then we spin because we're like, oh, because it's too much. We don't even know how to start because we freeze. It's a paralysis analysis that happens.
right.
Um, so do you have any suggestions for especially the brand new woman business owner? Um, how would you tell her to kind of organize herself to not do it all and to not be overwhelmed, like specific strategy steps? For example, would you know everybody says get on all the social media channels, that can be overwhelming, so certain things like that. What's your thoughts on
Well,
organization?
particularly in relation to social media, find one, get it working. Then find two, get it working. Find three, get it working. Don't You can't do 10 things at once. You can't hit 10 targets. One target. Figure it out. Start any, probably your top four things you need to do in when you start a business. Know who you serve. find your dot or find your field of favor, whatever you want to call it. Find that first. But oftentimes you have to find that with an experimental level. You have to go like, who do I actually serve? Start somewhere. Keep moving forward.
Yes.
Find that, play around with it on social media. Go, oh, this message connected with 15 people. This message connected with 55 people. What was different? And you don't spend a lot of time analyzing it, but you just kind of go like, okay, I spoke more from my heart here. I spoke more from my head here, and you
Mm.
start to see where your audience is connecting with you and ask them questions. Ask them things like, tell me more. Tell me more why you connected here. Tell me more, making it less about you and more about them. But then you need to have your next step, which is, and now I found my dot, I found my people. Okay, what am I going to serve them with? Because doing Facebook Lives, I'm not going to make a lot of money on that. I might lose more money if I start running ads. Don't run ads right away either, by the way. That would be another one. They'll tell you ads, funnels, all this stuff. And it's like, no, just start simply. Start
Mm.
talking to people, start bringing in an audience, start growing an email list. Just by talking to people and getting them to begin to subscribe to you. And then out of that, go, okay, here's what I have. Because most of us have a couple of different areas where we could help people. And like, I could teach Bible. I do teach mindset. I do teach renewing your mind. I could really go here. I mean, I'm an Asbury Theological Seminary graduate. I know my theology stuff, but that's not, I incorporate it in, but I could really just nerd out on this stuff and I'd only have nerds.
You're so funny.
I'd have other seminarians. Woohoo! Yay! I'm a Greek scholar too. And that's not my ideal audience. But I have
Mhm.
to incorporate some of that because
Yes.
that
Part
gives
of who you are.
that gives the support for what I'm doing. Because if
Yeah.
I just tell you, yeah, it's this principle, and you're like, where's that in scripture? Well, here it is. Here's
Yes.
actually 3 or 4 references to it. Then they start going, oh, okay, she actually has a point. And it's not something woo woo or foo foo, it's got a foundation, it's got a grounding.
You have just given so much great advice that it's just fantastic what you just said. I mean, and it's so true what you were saying about start with one, master it, then add another, master it. Definitely don't do ads. And you have to have that one focus.
Right.
Keep moving forward. Get in touch with, like you said, who's your audience? What are they relating to?
Right.
And also incorporate who you are, what feels good to you,
Right.
bring in your whole belief systems, what your values are, share them in a way that is incorporated in a way that others can hear and benefit by what you're saying. Really fantastic. So I had a couple other
And
questions for you.
one
With
other good thing is
yes.
you
Mhm.
get a coach. You can find coaches, they're varying prices from, you know, inexpensive to hundreds of thousands of dollar, millions of dollar masterminds. Get somebody who knows your area and can advise you because you go faster
Yeah.
together. We have or you go further for together. There's this old African proverb about if you want to go fast, go alone.
Yeah.
If you want to go far, go together.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to go together on this.
Yeah.
We need
Yeah.
each other. We're women. We're social beings by nature. And we need that. Ah, sharing testimonies, sharing stories, sharing whatever. We need that.
Absolutely agree with you. And I love so much the current landscape that we have for us. There are
Mhm.
so many women, helping women, basically supporting, collaborating. This idea of competition is
Right.
in the backside. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to be a part of that. We all want to work together. And especially as women business owners, entrepreneurs, we're typically solopreneurs.
Yep.
And a lot of the times our friends and families don't necessarily understand what we're doing. They're doing potentially the traditional way,
Right.
with the employer employee situation. And we need people that get us. They get us. We don't have to explain
Right.
ourselves. They understand our ups and downs. They make us feel like we're not alone, and then they give solutions. So this whole idea that you're sharing about we go farther together
Yep.
is absolutely true. It is not a race. It's a journey that is meant to be enjoyed the entire way and really connected to your authentic,
Hmm.
soulful self
Yeah.
that you bring forth, and you connect with other women in this regard, regardless of what their religious preferences or spiritual connection is. We are here to help, serve, nurture,
Hmm.
empower,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit more about, like, if someone is working with you and they have some sort of limiting belief system.
Uh,
um
yeah.
what's in a quick way, what's something that you would do to help them break through? Because you're so right about getting coaching.
Right.
Whether it's your best business friend that can help you, whether you're inspired by some old Tony Robbins YouTube videos,
Yeah.
whether you actually hire a coach, there is help for you, right? So, like, I know that you offer amazing services that can help women, like you said, renew their mindset, change their limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
Give me an idea of what that looks like.
And I'm gonna do a little cheesy example, but it's so what it is. These are the limiting or lies that we're believing, that it's basically like putting up a stop sign and you're like, do it afraid, do it, do it anyway, do it, do it, it'll get comfortable. But what we wind up doing is we're throwing up this stop sign, and what winds up happening is we'll do stuff but it'll fall flat. And it's this stop sign, this limiting belief, this lie that we're believing, whatever you want to call it, a stronghold. It worked for us in the past, but it doesn't work for us what we're doing right now. And so what belief training is, it will identify that thing that is keeping everything falling flat, even though we're trying and we're putting out a lot of effort. And what belief training does, once it's identified, then over the course of a short period of time, if you really think about life, right? It may feel like 3 months. Oh my gosh, Claire, that's forever. 3 months to get a better life and to slowly turn this out of the power of your life and into a go sign, which unfortunately is green. And now I'm realizing doesn't show up on
You have a green
screen.
screen in the
This
background. It's
green.
okay. Yeah.
This is green if you get it. Apparently you can't use green on a green screen. So this becomes now your launch pad for
Yeah.
everything, because you've got new beliefs, empowering beliefs, where you go, oh, that fell flat. What didn't work? Oh, okay. Oh, but that worked. Ooh, okay. Now instead of focusing on what didn't work, you focus on what does work and you reproduce more of that. And it begins to really make you have success. And you didn't do tons of extra work. Like belief training can be 1 minute a day, maybe 2 or 3 times a day, brushing your teeth, going to the bathroom, doing the dishes. It's best if it's out of your mouth, but you can record it so you can hear it. And you're like, at least you're reprogramming the thinking. I mean, we have all this technology that can help us get stuff into us.
Yeah.
Brushing your teeth.
I love what you said, and I love the visual. Because I think sometimes we just think about our beliefs and our minds and the thoughts, and they're not physical and blah blah blah. And then with you holding up that stop sign,
Yeah.
in front of your mind, and you could realize that you're going to constantly hit a wall. It You take that, change the beliefs, the stop sign goes away. Now you have a clear path. And it is important to have self-awareness,
Right.
because or have a coach that can point it out to you, because sometimes we can't see things our own selves. I absolutely had this experience.
Hmm.
Not to go into the detail, but what Claire is saying about having a coach,
Hmm.
many of us women are very self-reflective,
Hmm.
soulful. We meditate, we do yoga, we take nature walks, we are doing our gratitude journals, our affirmations, the whole 9 yards. And all of this is very, very important. But don't always think that just because you do all those right things,
Hmm.
that you actually know everything about yourself. I myself had an example. I have been all about this self-help since probably 12 years old. I started reading the books, and I am very connected to God and spirit,
Hmm.
quiet, all of it. And I thought I knew pretty much myself. Well, I hired a coach,
Hmm.
and I had an issue, a block that I was having. It was around money,
Hmm.
and I couldn't see it. And I'm like, why can't I get out of my own way? Why am I sort of self-sabotaging? This was back many years ago, but I knew there was something wrong, and I couldn't figure out what my problem was. I was stuck. I couldn't go. I had ambition, but I couldn't move. And
Yeah.
I've never been stuck like that before. I could not grasp what was wrong with me. I get on stage with her. I kind of give her a little background from her question. Within 10 minutes, she caught it and nailed, and it was just one of those moments where it was like, oh my goodness, I knew forever that I was changed and better for it. I
Yeah.
also was so shocked that I was not able to recognize it in myself. And the reason that I bring this up so passionately with you women is you need a coach.
Hmm.
You think you know everything about yourself. You do not. You know a lot and keep
Right.
on knowing yourself, but please be open to the fact that there is probably things that you are blocked. You don't realize it, and
Yeah.
you get a coach and they can point it out as the observer.
Hmm.
And this is kind of what Claire is saying. And I love what she's talking about the whole belief systems, because that's pretty much everything. You get
Yeah.
the correct beliefs, you get rid of the wrong beliefs,
Hmm.
you have a free path in front of you to go
Exactly.
for your dreams and make it happen. So I
Exactly.
love this, Claire. I love it. I love it. Give me a couple examples, like maybe something, give me one exercise someone can do on a daily basis at home to, let's do a often problematic thing with new business owners. They have
Right.
the fear of being visible online. They know they should be doing Facebook, Instagram lives, or
Yeah.
doing coaching even with live clients, and they love what their offer is. They just can't get in front of that fear.
Right.
How can you suggest that they can break that limiting belief?
And usually you have to find the anchor, the hook there. That's that stopping point. So, for example, speaking in front of someone, you'd never know that in junior high, I couldn't even from the podium read my speech, right? I had to overcome that. And I did it because I didn't have options in college or, a couple times in high school. And I got comfortable with it. But if you have a child trauma where you were like, I got up in front and all that came out was blah, 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 bacon, and the whole class laughed. Now, how excited are you going to be to get on Facebook and go, "Hey, it's Claire here with Cultivating Transformation. I know. How is it that we sometimes are like, I don't want to do this. I can't do this." It comes from that lie from middle school where I got up and I lost my train of thought and all the things that my people would tell me didn't work, and I just all that came out was bacon, and the whole class laughed, and all I did, I ran out of the room. And all you've been doing is running out of the room ever since. But you have this ability to go, wait, okay, public speakers do all these great things. That hook, I can unhook that anchor now, cut the rope, And I can be like, okay, just go live once a week. See how people respond to you. Just write and text some stuff. Maybe you don't have to get in front of the camera. Start just putting words out there. There are things, and then tell yourself, hey, you know what? I'm a great public speaker. I'm watching this guy. I'm watching Martin Luther King do his amazing speech in front of, I have a dream. I'm watching these public speakers and I'm like, okay, I see what they're doing. They're engaging with the crowd. They're making an eye contact, but they're also like they're repeating certain things. They're doing certain things. And you can begin to study these people. We have hundreds and thousands of YouTube videos of great public speakers, and a coach again will help you go, okay, you did good job there, one little tweak, you did this great, one little tweak, try doing this, try looking at the camera this time. You're down here, you're looking at not the camera, try looking at the camera, because while you have a great hairdo, I'd like to see your eyeballs in the camera. And but what you said was spot on, so you kind of sandwich that little bit of something in there, but they don't realize that they're really talking like this, and all you're really seeing is the top of their head.
And I
And
love that. Yeah, that's like really good practical advice for like kind of improving and not being so hard on yourself, giving yourself that space you need to get better. Like you say, move forward, keep moving forward. And one of the things that really worked for me in all aspects of my business, and I'm sure that you definitely would subscribe to this, is when I personally connected with God. I'm all about God. So it might be something different for you. Whatever the connection is to your spirit, you ask for, you say, what is it that I meant to do? How shall I go about it? You ask the right questions and you'll get the right answers, and you'll know that you're meant for more. You have a mission to serve. When you realize that your message is more important than your fear,
right,
it's done. Because now you have God, spirit,
right,
universe, whatever it is behind you, letting you know that your purpose is to get your message in front of people
yeah.
so that you can help them. And
Mhm.
if you get in your own way because you're shy or you're worried about how you appear on camera or you stutter or whatever it is, you unfortunately are limiting the chance to help other people. And I'm pretty sure most of us women here have a huge heart and soul that
Mhm.
we want to help and serve. And so for me, that I found that to be, I get out of my own way by having God lead me, basically. Like basically, God, what do you want me to do? Lead me. And I go. And I trust that because that's my connection to spirit. So if you were advising, um a woman, who's feeling a little disconnected from her spiritual essence, whatever her faith is, her spiritual essence, and she's a little confused about how to go forth. Do you have any suggestions of
Mhm.
how she might get in touch with that in a very authentic way that feels comfortable and safe and gives good guidance for her?
Well, the first thing is you got to relax. It's the thing we don't do well, right? I'm like, you know, like I have people come to me and they're like, I'm trying to read the Bible. Well, how much are you reading? Well, like, I'm reading two passages from the Old Testament, one from the New, and a Psalm. And I was like, too much scripture, too much. God didn't write it in one day or in one year. You don't have to read it in one year. Just read until something hits you, and then spend your time there. And like prayer, I don't know when prayer became sitting like this. I look at them and go, yeah, you know how I pray? On my feet, walking. I go for a walk
Yes.
in nature and I
Yes.
pull on something and I get inspiration. And the number one reason is
Me
I
too.
changed my state, my mental state, my physical, my heart rate's up. I'm 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 doing something. And I've probably by this point kind of forgotten where I was like, and
Yeah.
you know, And now I can have that freedom of expression and freedom of ideas flowing through me. And I usually will record stuff on my phone so that I don't lose that inspiration on the road, because you can't, especially when I live in Vermont, so November through April, we're wearing gloves. So I can't type. So I just hit record and go forward.
Yes.
And, you know, and don't lose those inspirational moments, because that is God speaking to you.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I frequently find I ask questions in the morning for my day, and I get the answers when I'm doing the dishes, brushing my teeth, driving in the car, which is probably the hardest one to record, going for a walk. I let that relax because I trust that God will speak to me. And so relaxing and trusting, I think, are key things that we aren't really taught. They'll be like, "I'll just trust God." Well, that's great, but give me a practical on how that happens. And
Yes, and I love what you're saying because it's about being open to
they,
receiving. You
mm-hmm,
have to be open to receiving. So you state what you need some help with.
mm-hmm,
You you await the answer and you open up the receiving. And
yeah,
it's absolutely true. You will get, I always call it a divine download.
right,
You will get your divine download.
yeah,
May not come immediately, but you will get it.
right,
And just for the practical, I don't know if anybody here is using WhatsApp. They have this new thing now where you can call yourself and leave yourself a message. I have been waiting for a feature like this forever. I didn't understand why phones didn't allow us to call our own selves, right? So I've used it a couple times before, and just as Claire was saying, I don't always want to type either because it takes too long to get the
right,
real passionate thought out. I will now call myself on WhatsApp and I will just say, "Oh my goodness, I just realized this is what I need to do. This makes so much sense." And I will, because you get caught up in the life and the busyness and you disconnect from that powerful message from God or spirit, and you need to go back and hear it, and it just makes so much sense. So that's very practical. So love, I always also wish that that we could send ourselves our own Facebook messages or just whatever, just ways to connect. Why can't we communicate? We have to communicate with everybody else. We should be communicating with ourselves and
and
have the tech to do it.
and receiving is the biggest piece. Is
Yes.
we're so blocked with the belief that we're unworthy, and oh, why me, this so much bigger. you know we're given talents,
Yeah.
and really the only well done, good and faithful servant that shows up in the New Testament is for the guy who got talents,
That's
money,
right. Mhm.
and he did something with it. And
He multiplied it.
the one that was full of fear and afraid, he didn't get a well done, good and faithful servant, because he buried it. So we need to get to that confident place where we're like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm not sure, but I'm going to take that confident step and trust that I'm in the right place and space. Because,
I love that you just said this. I don't know if the story of the three talents, if I
mm-hmm,
remember, it's a great, I love it. It's
yeah,
really very, very helpful. But it kind of just brought me back to a very practical present day moment. Um, this is about money blocks, right? So being a money coach, I have really truly experienced firsthand doing things that you think you shouldn't do that are coming from a place of faith
mm-hmm,
and rewards you. And this can be just, a small little example. It would be like, let's say you want to purchase something,
right,
but your practical mind is like, oh, but I really should save that money. I shouldn't spend that. I'm doing good in my business, but maybe not good enough yet. And you
right,
hold too tight and you block it.
mm-hmm,
This is going to keep you poor. That's all I have to say. I have experienced over and over and over again. Pay for that. If you have that true desire and it's in a good place and it makes sense,
right,
pay for it.
right,
every single time that happens, every time, new money finds me.
Right. Yeah.
I become richer, not poorer.
Mhm.
Every time I release the money, have faith
Mhm.
that I am already abundant
Yeah.
and will always be abundant, and
Mhm.
I have no scarcity issues. And I'm open to receiving.
Yeah.
It is the coolest thing in the world when you let go and let God. That's my saying, but let go and have the faith that it will be not only returned to you but multiplied, because it is a showing of faith in yourself, faith in your work, faith in your spirit. And I just love that we kind of touched on this. We're really going into some really heartfelt
Right.
conversations. I have like all these success questions, but I'm just rolling with it because I can feel this good energy.
Yeah.
I might get it in a little bit, but let me just see if I have another question that is helpful to women in the typical entrepreneurial ups and downs.
Well,
That
and what you were saying was sowing and reaping. And in sowing, like for example, I have a coach. I sow into a coach so that I can reap better results. It's like if you're trying to plant something in the garden, Trent Shelton talks about he came in, he thought he was an expert in gardening because he planted a plant once. And he went to the nursery, bought these things, they were dead in 2 weeks. And he's like, well, did you have your soil tested? Did you dig a hole deep enough for the tree? And he's like, when he got the guy to help him do the thing at the nursery, so he was right soil, right depth, right amount of mulch on top of what you need, then everything took off. It wasn't just great for a day or a week, it was great for a lifetime. And we need to really think about that, sowing into ourselves, sowing into somebody else, reaping a bigger reward on this side. Because does it take time? Yeah, absolutely. Anybody who tells you instant results gonna is lying to you. But it takes a little time, and then things start to root, and then the next thing you know, you got a big old tree and you're like, whoa,
yeah,
it was this tall when I bought it.
I love that, and it actually made me think of another thing, kind of like a coach, anybody who can help you transform. Basically, this everybody probably knows the saying, you give a man a fish, you feed him for the day. You teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And coaches have that ability to teach you to transform for the long haul, not just this solitary moment, individual moment that maybe will help you for the quick moment, but it's not going to help you for the life. I have two more questions I want to ask you that just came to mind that would be really good questions, and then we'll kind of wrap up. So I want to talk about specifically manifesting when you have a specific goal in mind, not the whole kit and caboodle of the whole life goal that you want for yourself, but a specific thing. How do you manifest it? What is your suggestion? What do you do? How do you make that come to reality?
The first thing you got to do is figure out what that block is, right? Well, once you figure out that, now you're like, ooh, okay. Now I know what I've been attracting, which is usually the problem. I've been attracting something. I've been sowing something, and I'm reaping the results, and I don't like the results. And I get somebody to help me look at my life and go, well, what have I been sowing? And now I begin to sow something different. And how I do that is I activate my imagination. And people will be like, Claire, I don't imagine things. Yeah, you do. It may be that subliminal, it went by right like that, but you had an imagination because it brought up a feeling and it brought up a thought and it brought up an emotion. If I said banana and you had no emotional attachment to it, you wouldn't even remember I said banana. But if you had the worst banana and you got sick as a dog off of a banana. Now you've got an emotional attachment to banana. And I say banana and you're like, you know, it, and it triggered an imagination. You saw that either nasty banana or the results of having a bad banana, and you had an emotional trigger out of it. Now, if you can figure out the things that or your are strongholds in your life because of what it emotionally brings up. And so if you're neutral on it, that's good. You're fine. If like we were talking earlier about fear of getting in front of the camera, if it's not neutral and it brings up fear, there's a something hooked you into. And every time you look at your phone and you think, I'm going to go on Facebook, I'm going to go do the dishes, you know, that's triggering something. And you got to figure out what that imagination is, begin to shift that thought, begin to shift that belief, so that now you get on the camera and it's like, I get on the camera and 500 people are on with me. Whoa, you know, and I bring my confident self. What shifted? Your imagination,
Mm.
even if it was for a heartbeat of a second.
So basically, what you're saying is before you can really even do the magic of manifesting, you have to be able to recognize any potential blocks you might have about it. And you recognize it by the emotions that you feel when you think about it. So, like, it could be something, let's just, for the sake of argument, say someone wants to buy their dream car, and they this dream car, let's say, is 3 times what they ever thought they would ever spend on a car, but they really love it. And so when they think, I'm going to they hear the things, let me sit on my mat, say my affirmations 10 times a day, imagine myself in the car driving it, and they're doing
Yeah.
all the things and the car isn't showing up. The reason it's not showing up is there's some kind of block
Right.
beforehand that needs to be cleared. And once the block is cleared, then you can manifest it cleanly, right?
Yeah. And
Okay, so
and there's
let's assume,
multiple
sorry,
hooks could be there. It could be, I've never spent that kind of money,
yeah, it could
poverty
be a lot of
spirit
things,
type of
right?
thing. It could be, I really don't have that kind of money right now. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a boy, if I spent that, I'd have to give up Netflix and this and this and this in order to pay for it. And I'm not really ready for that. So sometimes it's like it's out here still, not
Yeah.
here, but I'm going to draw it in because I'm going to get that $100,000 idea so that now I can pay for it and I can lay down the cash for it.
Okay, so let's assume, just out of curiosity, let's assume the person figured out the trigger, the
Right.
block, and now they got a clear path. When they have the clear path, how do you suggest they manifest for that actual reality to come to them? Like, what actual things should they be doing?
Well, I think there's two steps. If you don't have the funds for it, you need to figure out, okay, let's say it's a $50,000 car, which is not unreasonable in this day. And you're like, okay, I need a $50,000 idea
Mhm.
to pay for the $50,000 car, or a $20,000 idea that then I can have a reasonable payment for the $50,000 car, right? And keep that $20,000 payment, you know, that idea, and turn it into $100,000 idea. And so it's not always just about the car. It's sometimes about trusting that idea that's going to get you to the financial place where now, okay, the car's not like way up here. It's now actually a doable idea.
Huh?
And you're
So
attracting
that's step one. Now,
finance.
what's step two?
Step two would be, you know, and while you're doing this, you're also doing step two. You're seeing yourself in the car, the new car smell. I mean, that
Yeah.
leather seats or whatever you want there, you know, that new car smell that you can have. And you know what that smell is, and you can smell it. Your memory sense are tied to things.
Yes.
And you can start to really see yourself in there driving it. Maybe even go for a test drive. You know, I mean, they'll let you test drive things. They
Absolutely.
ask for
Absolutely.
that. So you
Yep.
can kind of take a video and a shot of yourself, or maybe they won't let you test drive it and you just take a shot of yourself in front of that car or in the car seat, you know, so that you can begin to picture it. Like I picture wealth coming into me. I picture clients. I picture myself on Zoom talking to people and getting them the success so that way I get that raving fan, you know? And so I think
Exactly.
sometimes we have
Exactly.
to get rid of that block and then pull into something. And let's face it, some things take years. I mean, I have this oak tree right here that I remind myself that some things we're sowing into are 50 years down the line. They're legacy things. And then, I did this message on sweet corn, which is, grows in a season. Apple trees are 6 to 10 years to get a fruit off of it. We need to remind ourselves that it
Yeah.
isn't immediate.
I love that symbolism with nature and how we put so much pressure on ourselves, but you don't see the acorn tree giving itself a hard time because it's taken too long. It's just going with the flow of the way it's supposed to evolve, right? And one last thing that I wanted to say as you were suggesting this idea, first of all, I love this. Get rid of the block. To be practical. If you want a $50,000 car, it's going to take $50,000 in cash, not just your nice little manifesting thoughts, right? So
Yeah.
we need to have the practical with the magical, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And so the combination of the two, and you reminded me of my coach, the one that I mentioned before, that helped me break a block that I didn't even know I had. She had had a trip to Paris way back in the day. She had a trip to Paris planned, and she's all into fashion, and she wanted to have the freedom to not have to say no to clothing. She wanted to just go into any store, not look at a price tag, and she thought, okay, well, if I want to do that, then I probably need like a $10,000 fashion budget. And her husband at the time said, "Are you nuts? How are you going to do that?" And she said, "You know what? I'm going to think of a way to make that money, and I'm going to imagine myself experiencing myself shopping in the most beautiful shops in Paris and spending that money joyfully." And that is everything that you just said is exactly what she did. She found her desire. She had no possibility at that moment. She didn't have that $10,000 to go on a shopping spree, but she had the desire. And from the desire, she said, okay, how?
Right.
How can I make that happen? Then the how came to be. And then she imagined and was able to live the real life experience. So I love what you're saying. Okay, final question. I'm loving this
And
interview so
sometimes,
much. Yeah,
and again, it's not always a how. We get locked into this how
you're right.
when
Yeah,
it's a who sometimes.
yes.
That will
Yeah.
help us with the how, and then the how takes off. And I think one thing that I want to tell people too, especially with some of the examples we've been using, sometimes we're afraid. We watch somebody, if we'd seen each other decades ago, we would not be this person that's on the screen now. We'd have been nervous, we'd have had tech problems, we'd have done this. And we're looking at somebody who's 5 years down the line, 3 years
Yeah.
down the line. We're not looking at their very first video where they're going, is this thing on?
I still
Oh,
do that, and it's
oh,
not my first video.
too much nose, right? Right? I
Yeah.
mean, we're not looking at their very first video.
Mhm.
We're looking at I got a comfort. I know what I'm doing. I got this. I
Yep.
got a rhythm now.
Yeah, you learn by doing. Yep.
Right. And so we got to stop looking at the pros and going, I'm not a pro. I'm, you
Yeah,
know, and, and,
exactly.
and allow ourselves to be okay with small
Mhm.
and know that by doing, we're not going to stay there. It's like
That's right.
this, this is not an oak tree,
Right.
but it contains the essence of an oak tree.
Or going back to, we don't crawl anymore.
Right.
We have gone from infant crawling to walking to running to the things. So it is all about this. If we wouldn't be mad, a mom wouldn't be mad at her child for not walking quicker than the
Right.
crawling is supposed to take. So everybody at their own pace, just keep moving forward. That's basically the line.
And,
Okay, so
and
my
take,
last question
and
here.
take the time to celebrate those little wins.
Yes,
You
yes,
went consistently online for a week. You blew it for days 9 and 10, but you got back on it on day 11 and you're like, I went back, and you did 14 days before you
yes,
blew a day, and you were like, and you're
yes.
okay. And you
Yeah,
celebrate. I did it. I did it. I did it. Because we
yeah,
don't take time in this culture to celebrate our victories. We're so busy focusing on our what work on your weaknesses. Your
yeah,
weakness, your weakness. No, celebrate
so
your
true.
victories. So
Yeah,
more of your victories and your weaknesses will become less of a focus,
yeah.
and become, you'll be like, wait, I struggled. I I don't seem to be struggling at that anymore.
Yes. And you're so right. And it's so often that we tend to just give everybody else the compliments and the support, but then we fail for ourselves and we only notice what we didn't do right instead of what we did do right. And I love that. And there's even a book called Stop Fixing Yourself. And
Right.
I actually have it. I didn't read it yet because I'm still fixing myself. However, I should probably, right? Gotta read that.
But that
Okay, my,
word counseling thing from Saturday Night Live. Stop it.
yeah. Okay, my last
Yeah.
question for you. What does a successful day in your life look like?
Well, I'm an early riser. Some people are like, why are you up at 3? And I was like, well, I've been up at 3 most of my life. To be honest with you, my parents were dairy farmers.
Oh,
And
okay.
so they would walk by my room 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. They'd be having their morning coffee. I would hear them and I'd be awake. And
Yeah,
then I'd be awake for hours. So when I went to seminary, I realized, why am I fighting and making myself go back to sleep? I might just as well get up. Ever have those moments where you're like, I am wide awake. It is 2
yeah.
a.m.
The
Guess what?
best is get out of bed.
I just get up and
Yeah,
I go, I'll figure out a way to get a nap later. Or I'll sometimes I'm up at midnight and I'm like, I am so going back to bed around 5.
yeah,
Right. And I have missed no time, but I didn't lay in bed going,
yeah.
I
Exactly,
just want to go
exactly.
back to sleep. Or I'm on my phone going, why can't I sleep? Right.
You have to follow the inspiration.
And so I'll get up and I'll do 3, 4 hours of work, go, "Oh, I'm starting to get that like weird headache where I either need Mountain Dew and it's way too early for Mountain Dew, or a nap. And I'll just go back to sleep for 30 minutes. It's enough to get me charged up again. And I go about my day. And I've got 4 hours of productivity before most people even get out of bed. It
Yes,
does mean I go to bed early, but
yeah,
I scheduled this call with you at 6 a.m. and
right,
it doesn't affect me at all. I turn
right.
my computer on at 3 and thank God I did, because something weird had happened when I shut it down, and it was spent an hour and a half doing
Uploading.
a
So,
weird
so
thing.
your so
So
your successful day starts early, and then do
starts
you have certain
early.
practices that you
Yeah.
do?
I
Meditation, walk.
I often listen to Steve Backlund. He's funny, or his wife Wendy, and a teaching to just orient my spirit person, get me
Mhm.
laughing and doing that. I usually have a scripture or two that'll drop in my spirit. I'll read those or listen to them. I listen to a lot of stuff. I'll go for a walk, and I will schedule my day. Like there are certain things I like to get done at before a certain hour. Like, okay, I need to be my most productive in the early morning. Like I'm a morning person.
Right.
So noon,
Mine,
as
yeah,
soon as lunch comes, I'm like, this is
yep.
when I do more of the meetings with people.
Hmm.
I do more of the lives interaction.
Yes.
I do more of the prep stuff in the morning,
Yeah.
because it's just, I know it's who I am.
Yes.
And
I love that. I love that. Just get to know yourself, your own rhythm, your own the way you need to function. Just pay attention to who you are and go with it. It'll serve you well. Absolutely.
and I mean, I had a friend and she would go to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
and then she would try to get up at 5 and have prayer. And I was
Oh,
like, why?
you
Why
can't.
are you
You got
doing
to
it
heal,
to yourself?
have health for your body.
And
So I really love everything that we covered today. It really some practical tools,
Mhm.
So much focus on beliefs and transformations, which is what your whole book is all about. So I just want to tell all of you women, please go check out Claire's website, Cultivating Transformation, Thinkific. Yeah, Thinkific. I'll put the links
Cultivating
in the show notes.
transformation, cultivating transformation VT dot thinkific.
Vermont. There you go. Well,
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you so much, Claire, for such a beautiful, inspiring, soulful interview. This is really going to be a great service to so many women that need not only the inspiration, but the practical tools and strategies that you offered. I can imagine that your programs are fantastic and also filled with lots of fun.
Yeah.
So I thank you again. And okay, wealthy women. So you had a fantastic interview here. So go ahead, reach out to Claire. Thank you so much for sharing the time. And remember, please keep going for your dreams. If the desire is in your heart, it is meant for you. You may not know the how or the when, it will all come to be, but you have to trust and keep moving forward. And until next time, keep going for your dreams and see you soon. Bye for now. Okay, now I put on the glasses to see
You're
because
still,
that's what we said,
I
right?
was gonna say
Okay,
you're still
there we
recording.
go.